Tommy Kane is an NFL superstar, and Tamara Sheikh is his backbone.
If you're coming from Montreal, you were feeling like pretty hot stuff going out with Tommy Kane.
They're madly in love until Tommy's career hits a wall.
You can't get it done, you can't get it done.
The area was lousy with the cocaine.
And this game of life and love will end in tragedy.
You don't want your little boys seeing their dad abusing drugs and alcohol.
That's like TNT explosives right there, in my mind.
Love may be blind and marriage bliss, but divorce is murder. It's the early 1980s. Tommy Kane comes of age in a rough-and-tumble neighborhood in Montreal, Canada, known as Little Burgundy.
In those days, it was a rough neighborhood. Low income, a lot of people on welfare, racism issues. Not unheard of for little kids to have knives and chains and, you know, to be going to school with this kind of stuff.
And Tommy is no exception.
He was the baddest of the bad kids. He'd done B&Es, that he had stolen a car.
There's guys in the neighborhood that did as much as him or more than him and went to prison and stuff like that. He wasn't on that level, but he'd get in fights with guys on the streets and he'd steal here and there, you know what I mean?
He certainly was on a track to end up in a lot of trouble down the line.
People like Tommy don't impress local good girl, Tamara Sheikh.
She was very attractive young lady, and she seemed like she had her act together.
Tamara lives with her mother, sister, and 2 brothers in a traditional Trinidadian, God-fearing household.
What are you doing? Just come.
She was a gorgeous girl. Beautiful family.
She had a fabulous sense of humor. She was very kind and always willing to help out anybody in their time of need.
In spite of her good girl ways, Tamara has much in common with Tommy, including Little Burgundy friends and loyalty to family.
He grew up poor, you know, and he knew that the family was poor.
You staying out of trouble?
Of course I am, Ma.
Tommy's also exceptional in another regard. He's a gifted athlete and finds salvation in football.
Tommy was a great athlete.
Honestly, I'm gonna go. I can't do this. What?
You know, he had all the attributes that you need to be a successful professional athlete. He was fast, strong, had jumping ability. You know, it was just admirable.
Tamara can't help but admire Tommy's athletic prowess.
She came into that neighborhood through friends. She was good at going with another guy from the neighborhood, and Tommy probably knew her that way.
But for the time being, Tamara will have to keep her admiration at a distance. While she stays in Montreal with her family, Tommy lands a lucrative football scholarship at Syracuse University in New York State.
It's a tremendous boost to get a scholarship if you come from a family background that could not otherwise afford a 4-year college education.
Yeah, I made it.
We understood where he came from and that he had to be tough in that environment. But once he reached college, where we met him, he seemed to be polished.
Get off me!
But the polish is only skin deep. At Syracuse, Tommy is arrested after an altercation with a police officer.
She was giving him a ticket because he was parked illegally, and he tried to argue with her.
He'd gotten like 19 tickets, parking tickets on his car.
Tommy gets lucky. he's sentenced to community service, and his football career moves onwards and upwards.
We're 11-0 in 1987, which was the most wins in Syracuse history. And it's something we're very proud of, and we still talk about and celebrate to this day.
His success in the classroom matches that on the field.
He knew what he had to do, and he stayed eligible and went to class and did his necessary work assignments to stay eligible to play.
Tommy was actually a surprise, one of those guys who was actually a pretty decent student.
And then when he got the opportunity to leave, he left.
Opportunity is the right word. When Tommy graduates from Syracuse with a marketing degree, he's drafted by the Seattle Seahawks.
To be drafted by the NFL was a big deal, was a validation of his life, and I think something that he was very, very proud of. To have that opportunity, he had the speed, he had the ability, the vertical jump, and he had all the skills you want from an NFL wide receiver. He was definitely one of those guys that, when you saw him play in college, you knew he would play in the NFL.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, that's good. That's good. Give me your sexiest. Give me. There it is. Yes, perfect.
Like, wow, this is the kid from Little Burgundy, you know, like, yay. Yay for Little Burgundy.
His contract was worth millions over extended period of time, probably 3 or 4 year contract, which I'm sure was worth at least $3 million. So he had a chance to make some good money.
Yo, boy, come on.
And he didn't just make it, he was a superstar in the NFL. If you look at the sports stories about Tommy Kane, he was written up as the savior of the Seattle Seahawks.
A savior, a superstar, and rich to boot. Still, he stays true to his roots. He continues to visit family and friends in Montreal, now as a hometown hero.
You guys still playing ball? Yeah? I used to play basketball on these courts right here, too.
That's how we saw him, as a hero, coming out of Little Burgundy and out of Montreal.
He was the hope on the horizon that a lot of these poor kids could get out of that neighborhood.
And it's over the course of these return visits that Tommy falls for 21-year-old Tamara Sheikh.
Tamara, you remember me? It's been so long. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Still playing with those little baby dolls?
If you're a top player, most of the time you want the prettiest girl.
And he liked attractive women, he liked intelligent women, which she was.
Got something in your head. Can I?
For Tamara, the attraction is mutual.
He was a catch, ladies' man. When you see him, you would do a double take as a young lady, you know?
Do you mind if we walk and see your mom at the same time? I haven't seen her so long. It would mean a lot to me if I can see her.
She'd love to see you.
All right, let's go then.
Yeah.
I knew it was special because he did talk about her a lot.
Man, it's been so long time.
Tamara is a bank teller, far from the glamour of the NFL.
The people at the bank loved her. You know, thought she was very charming and nice and everything, you know?
Tommy likes the fact that she's honest, hardworking, and she's from the neighborhood.
I want to bring you to my special place.
Once you are an NFL player, you meet so many women. You're not quite sure what their agendas are, and it's just hard to trust. Tommy came from an area where he didn't trust a lot of people, and the people he did trust, you kept close.
To psychotherapist Stacy Kaiser and forensic psychologist Brian Russell, that tight-knit community bond makes perfect sense for both Tamara and Tommy.
The fact that Tommy and Tamara came from the same background gives them a natural connection. They have the same history, they came from the same community, they probably have a lot of the same friends.
Tommy and Tamara had a history, and history can have a powerful binding effect on people. She probably had it in her mind that they were gonna have this wonderful, happily ever after relationship that she had been fantasizing about with him since she was a teenager.
For Tamara, he is the golden ticket. And for him, he's got someone who understands where he came from, who came from simple beginnings, and probably isn't gonna take advantage of him on his climb to success.
When Tommy returns to the Seahawks, Tamara shuttles back and forth between Montreal and Seattle.
It took you so long.
Oh my goodness.
This was a relationship where he would fly her in. It was a jet-setting kind of a thing. So it felt like, you know, if you're coming from Montreal, you were feeling like pretty hot stuff going out with Tommy Kane.
It was difficult in a way because of the distance between the two of them, but the fact that they love each other is what kept them together.
Long distance is difficult, to be sure, but there are perks to dating a superstar.
They get bumped to the front of the line at any club they go to. They have handlers who look after the money. They don't have to book hotels. They don't have to book rental cars. Basically, they don't have to do anything. They can just play and be famous.
Tamara doesn't let it go to her head.
I got this. Don't worry.
Put your money away.
Really?
Put it away.
She was obviously much more grounded. He wasn't sending money for her to live off of. She had her, you know, this wasn't a total sugar daddy thing.
It's not like she was totally dependent on him for, you know, for support, because she was doing her own career, you know.
With a burgeoning football career and Tamara by his side, Tommy shoots straight to the top.
What do you think?
What?
We made it. We're finally at a little Burgundy, Ma. Come on, let's check it out.
Back in Montreal, he even buys his mother a house in the more upscale Montreal suburb of LaSalle.
I think the dream of every kid playing football is, if I make it, I'm gonna take care of my mother. And I'm gonna buy my mom a house.
She worked her whole life and she supplied him with, you know, food and clothing and shelter. So most guys, what they want to do, they want to give back to their moms.
It's a great feeling. It really is to give back to the people that has given you your whole life.
3 years into their relationship, Tamara's thrilled to discover she's pregnant with their first child.
He started mentioning that he wanted to have some children and he wanted the family life and settle down. He wanted that lifestyle. He looked forward to it.
But nothing lasts forever. And when you're at the top, there's nowhere to go but down.
He was kind of still playing the field, so to speak, for many years.
NFL technically means the National Football League, but what it really means is not for long.
Tommy Kane's pro football career is taking off, and he and hometown girlfriend Tamara Shake have everything they've ever wanted, including a baby on the way. The couple is over the moon. The problem is, Tommy's not the faithful type.
Part of the perks of being an NFL football player are the women. Being young and athletic and talented and having some money. Women like that. Just so happens that most athletes like women that like that.
He was kind of still playing the field, so to speak, for many years.
Tamara seems to turn a blind eye to Tommy's tomcatting for a while.
And they'll maybe accept a certain level of infidelity because there's a lifestyle that they're afforded financially. And so, and then of course there's a breaking point to that as well.
For Tommy, it's all part of life at the top.
Everybody knew us in the neighborhood because even before that, they already knew us. So once he went pro, that just enhanced everything.
He liked to be his own person and do what he enjoyed doing. You know, he liked being independent.
Somebody take me to jail.
We all laugh and joke together in the club. We'd be dancing and stuff like that. But nothing like hardcore drinking and stuff like that. He never was a guy like that.
A lot of athletes have affairs. So it may be that that has become part of the culture. She had talked to a bunch of the other wives and girlfriends. They've dealt with the same thing, and she realizes that's just par for the course.
He sort of separated his life from hers by being across the continent a lot of the time. So even though she wasn't necessarily happy with what he's doing, it was sort of out of sight, out of mind. It was a phase that he had to go through to sort of adjust to his status as an NFL player, and that at some point he'd get past it and then they could have a nice, stable life.
They may have also had some sort of a conversation where he said to her, "You're my number one, and these people don't mean anything," and that may have been enough for her.
Combining football with long-distance fatherhood is proving to be difficult for Tommy.
Anyone can father a child, but to be a parent, to be a responsible parent, takes a level of maturity that if he's not ready for, he's not going to make that final commitment.
And it's not just his personal life that's suffering. Just months into his pro ball career, Tommy's got injuries that are giving him grief.
So what's the good news, Doc?
You know, you're getting hit. You're playing wide receiver, you're getting nailed by safeties and linebackers. And then he had concussions on top of that. From the head, knees, and then the feet. You need all three for football.
Then in 1993, his football season is cut cruelly short.
Looks like you're not going to be able to play football for at least a year.
You serious?
Yes. Look, I'm sorry.
He had an ongoing problem with his Achilles heel and his hamstring. Both of those injuries do not heal well.
Tommy is a Seahawk no longer.
The first team he ever been cut from was the NFL. That's big.
These owners are investing in you. You're not just a student athlete anymore, but you're an investment. And they like their investment to pay dividends. And when it doesn't, they get rid of the investment.
The average career in the NFL is 3 1/3 seasons.
The acronym NFL technically means the National Football League, but what it really means is not for long, because the extent of the careers are very short.
Faced with the pressure of providing for a family, Tommy files grievances for compensation.
When you're hurt, you know, they cut you and they don't have to pay you anymore. And so he probably had money left on the contract and was trying to go get that money.
The claim is successful, and he wins a substantial payout. Tommy's future in football and the livelihood of his young family are anything but certain.
It took about a year for Tommy to feel that he was back in good enough shape that he could play again.
You don't back down, you're tough, you fight through adversity, you fight through the hard times, you fight through your physical pain, your emotional pain, you ignore your physical pain, you ignore your emotional pain. That's the way that you become successful in that game.
The following year, he's drafted by the Toronto Argonauts in a move that brings him back to Canada and closer to his girlfriend and infant son.
Going from the NFL to the CFL, you're talking about making a fraction of the money. In prestige, it's a big drop down. It would have been a bitter pill to swallow.
Regardless, Tommy donates an entire year of his Argos salary, $65,000, to Montreal's West End Sports Association, which saved him from the streets in the early days. Little does he know, his days in Toronto are numbered.
He just wasn't up to the standards that he needed to be in athletics to play pro football anymore, whether it was in Canada or the US.
When the injuries catch up to you, it doesn't matter where you're playing. If you can't get it done, you can't get it done.
At the age of 30, Tommy Kane's career in professional football is over.
I think he was dealing with that like any other athlete would deal with that. Like, it's just like a boxer who's boxing, making millions of dollars. You got the crowd screaming and yelling and all that, and then that's not happening anymore.
People who are truly grounded and know who they are and just happen to play football are the ones that successfully make that transition from, you know, being a superstar to someone, an average member of society.
There's one silver lining on this dark cloud. Finally, Tommy and Tamara can really be together in the same city.
You'll be all right. You were amazing. And I'm proud of you. Seriously.
But his homecoming is met with mixed emotions.
I assume it would be difficult for Tommy to pick up the pieces. It would be rough on any family after having your husband's career go downhill like that.
It had to be hard for her because she was doing the breadwinner now. She was doing her thing, you know, getting her check, but you gotta live like a family.
She was quiet, but she carried a big stick, you know, that she was respected and she had authority in the family, and she was keeping the home together.
Tommy immerses himself in the community, volunteering as a coach with the West End Sports Association.
He missed being involved in sports. He missed the entourage that comes with being involved in sports, whether that was as an announcer or you know, as a spokesperson. He did more than just be an inspiration. He actively encouraged these kids. He became their role model. He was their hero. He was playing basketball with them, baseball. He was coaching them in football.
He was always the type of person to do good. You know, like he went back to his community. He never forgot where he came from.
Working with children is rewarding, but it doesn't put food on the table. While Tamara continues to work as a manager at a downtown Montreal bank, Tommy has to find a new career and regain his confidence.
You know, before, he had all kinds of people telling him how wonderful he was and how successful he was, and, you know, all of those ego things that he was used to. And then all of a sudden, that's all cut off, and Tammy is the only person who is giving it to him.
Finally, Tommy lands a job as a radio commentator for Montreal's football team, the Alouettes. But the gig is up after a single season. His marketing degree and some good connections land him an even better paid job in promotions at Universal Studios Orlando. But it's also short-term.
This long-distance relationship was happening again, where she would fly back and forth from Montreal to Florida. And eventually he decided that he wasn't happy there.
When you have that sort of tumultuous career, you want to go back to where people know you. You want to go back to where you're somebody. And I think that was Montreal for him.
Honey, I'm so sorry.
Sorry, baby. Let's just go home, all right? Things change.
What happened?
Let's just go home, all right?
Hey, it's not gonna be so bad.
Short on cash and in need of a place to stay, the struggling family of three moves into Tamara's mother's house.
It was her mother and Tammy who did most of the childcare.
And it's pressure on him to get a job, to get out of there as a man and get a job and buy his own house.
He was just trying to find his way. He was just trying to find that passion, that excitement that can take the place of football.
Faced with uncertainty, the couple agrees to make one thing in their lives stable.
Yeah, I was up all morning preparing this for you.
Aw,
you ready for it?
All right.
You sure?
Yes. Bring it on, baby.
There it is.
Nearly a decade into their relationship and 5 years after the birth of their son, Tommy and Tamara plan a summer wedding.
He mentioned that he was serious about getting married, and we never really thought that would happen.
Wow, it's gorgeous. Are you serious? Oh my God.
A lot of guys from my neighborhood, they don't really get married. They might just have a girl, they have kids, and they just live like that.
Wait, I got one more thing for you, all right?
What?
For most of their relationship, she was the one who wanted the commitment, and he was the one who seemed to be afraid of that commitment.
And he just wanted to make sure it was right. He wanted to make sure he can hold up to his end of the bargain, and once he was committed, that he would be committed forever.
After 9 years, Tommy's sure. They marry and move out of Tamara's mother's house into their own. But soon, Tommy will be committed in a way Tamara could never have imagined.
She embodies his failed marriage. She embodies his failed fatherhood. She just embodies all of that.
It got to the point of stalking, and she wanted it to stop.
Former sports star Tommy Kane's career after pro football is a series of disappointments. But when he and Tamara marry, they commit to each other, whatever the future holds. In 2 years, they have 2 more boys.
I think they kept having kids because she probably wanted a girl.
And in 2000, they have their 4th child, a daughter.
When I heard that he had 4 kids, I was like, it's time to slow down. I mean, what are we trying to do? Get a basketball team or something? Just, how many kids do you want?
They probably planned on having kids, but I don't think he planned on having that many kids. I don't think he was financially ready for 4.
It is definitely added stress when you have family, you have mouths to feed. And it kind of heightened his frustration, and I think he started feeling the pain more and more as time went on.
For kids, it becomes very confusing. Adults get it, and adults go, well, he's just depressed because he's not playing anymore and he's lost that lifestyle. But kids don't get that. And so it becomes very scary for kids to see that turn.
Tommy's been sort of wrapped up in Tommy. He was focusing on his career, and then when his career ended, he's trying to focus on what to do next. And it's really hard to truly commit to a partner when you feel like you're trying to save yourself.
They've spent a career working their way up a ladder that has given them a lot of respect within that community, a lot of status, and then they come back out into the civilian community and they lose that. There's a real sort of sense of loss of identity. There's a sense of loss of worth.
This is who he's always been. He's always been a football player. So now that that's gone, who is he going to be? What is he going to do? How is he going to continue to make a living? Those are all questions that have got to be running through his head on a regular basis.
Out of desperation, Tommy tries his hand as a sports marketing manager for a nutritional supplements distributor. But each new mundane job underlines the fact that his glory days are over.
It wasn't his passion. He didn't like getting up every morning, going to work.
You really do have to wonder, what his personal identity was and what he was struggling with, not knowing what he wants to do, and therefore not knowing who he is.
I'm sure it was a difficult process, and it's a difficult transition for not just for Tommy, but for the whole family.
The demands of fatherhood are a far cry from the adulation he got in pro football. And by the new millennium, there's a whiff of discontent about Tommy, or maybe it's a sniff.
The area was lousy with the cocaine. I'm pretty sure that Tommy's drug use would have gone back to his teens. It would have gone back to the playground. I have no doubt about that.
The cocaine does nothing to stem his drift into depression.
There are a lot of players who go through bouts of depression and other issues, psychological and emotional issues, transitioning out of the game.
Tommy hits the party circuit harder than ever.
He was getting high a little bit, and I said to him, I think you're getting high too much. You should stop doing all that.
Yo, what the hell are you doing?
And he says to me, why are you always telling me how to live my life?
You can't be doing that right here. Get out of here.
When I heard all these different things about him doing drugs and all this, I'm like, you talking about the same Tommy? This is not the Tommy I know. What are you saying? It's not the Tommy I know.
And now that the couple is married and living together, Tamara can no longer turn a blind eye to Tommy's wild lifestyle.
Where the hell were you?
I was at Dean's house.
Don't you dare lie to me. You were at the club. I can smell it all over you.
Yeah, so what? It's my money. I can do what the hell I want with it.
Your money?
Yeah.
I'm the one paying for everything in this house now. Don't you dare disrespect me like that.
They've been together more than a decade, and she's had enough.
You don't want your little boys seeing their dad abusing drugs and alcohol. You don't want them to be following in his footsteps.
After just 4 years of marriage, the couple agrees that it's time for a break.
They thought it was in their best interest to separate at the time and hopefully get their minds and their hearts in the right place, and they can come back together at some point.
Tommy moves into a condo.
Now he can come and go as he please without really being questioned. And I think when he did that, she probably started to, after a while, she started to build strength and be herself and go out and do her thing.
Tammy had said, how can I take him back? He doesn't want a job. He doesn't even volunteer. Like, he does nothing that gives him any kind of stability. She is trying to help her children adjust to their father not really being in the picture anymore. She is trying to open up new avenues for herself and her family.
More than new avenues. Rumor has it that Tamara's seeing another guy.
One time I was at a club, and she was at a club at the same time that night, and she was around a guy that I knew, and I know Tommy doesn't know that guy. She was probably starting to date a little bit, and she didn't want him to know. because she knows he probably would fly off the handle.
Tommy hears the rumors, and they get to him.
So when she starts splitting from him and pulling away from him, that's when he realizes what he's about to lose, and he becomes very dependent on her. That was when all of a sudden he woke up and realized, oh my goodness, I can't have my cake and eat it too. I can't be out playing. I can't be out abusing cocaine and alcohol and have my wife and have my kids.
But it's too late. Tamara is no longer under his thumb.
I said, this is not going to end good.
It really was the perfect storm leading to this tragic event.
Former football star Tommy Kane is partying like crazy, and his erratic behavior only worsens when he starts to suspect his estranged wife Tamara is seeing other men.
He's starting to get desperate, and he starts showing up at her house. Sometimes he's showing up at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Tommy!
Hey, who the hell you with, huh?
What the hell difference does it make to you?
He was losing control, not just control of his life and his football career and his physical being, but now he's lost control over the woman that he'd been controlling for so long.
It got to the point of stalking, and she wanted it to stop.
We knew he wasn't in a good frame of mind, that things just were not working as planned, and he just couldn't find his way, and he just wasn't happy.
And the whole thing snowballs because the more cocaine he uses and the more partying, the worse he feels, and the worse he feels, the more cocaine and alcohol he's using.
That was probably the time when people started hearing he's suicidal a little bit. My wife is leaving me. I'm an ex-NFL guy. She's leaving me. She can't leave me. Him have no job, money coming in. The concussions on top of that, the dope on top of that. Now you take that with no work, you take that with doing drugs, you take that with depression, you got a problem. That's like TNT explosives right there, in my mind.
Tommy checks himself into the psych ward of a local Montreal hospital to treat his depression.
One of the things about being a football player and an athlete was that you're in control. You're capable of getting through pain. You're capable of getting through adversity. You're capable of ignoring your pain, ignoring your feelings. But here now he was trying to grapple with that, and he was trying to understand.
His sister said he just looked broken. And when she came closer and he saw her, he just said, I can't take it anymore. Like, I'm in too much pain.
For Tommy to have been hospitalized, it means that some professional thought that he was a harm to himself or other people. That is a serious thing to have to deal with.
Despite all of the legal process that happens around the dissolution of a marriage, it still doesn't feel over until the other one moves on. That sort of really brings home the finality of the end of that relationship. And it's only then sometimes that people sort of feel the full impact of the loss of that.
Doctors release Tommy 5 weeks later, and he moves in with his mother, Shirley.
His mother said that he was just wandering around, talking to himself. She's lying to me. I'm gonna kill myself, I'm gonna kill myself.
And they said to her, oh, he's okay. He was okay to be discharged, and to discharge him.
Tommy's mental state is a serious concern, but his mother soon realizes the bigger, more immediate problem is his drug use. Even holed up at his mother's house, he's doing more cocaine than ever.
I need your help, doctor.
He'll be fine.
I'm telling you, he's not all right.
I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do.
I met a friend. Well, that friend was with Tommy the night before. And he said to me, yeah, me and Tommy were partying real heavy last night.
He admits that he was using 1 or 2 grams of cocaine a day for a couple of days, and then a day off, and then a couple of grams a day for a couple of days, and taking a day off.
I said, this is not gonna end good.
Exactly. He's my ex-husband.
Desperate to save Tommy, his mother decides to stage an intervention. The plan is to convince Tommy to register in a detox program now. She believes he'll listen if she can get Tamara to help.
Fine. I'll be there.
Even though her marriage was falling apart, she was still trying to help Tommy get help. She was still trying to make sure that his children still had a relationship with their father, even though that relationship was falling apart.
She's known him forever, but more importantly, he is the father of her children. They have 4 kids together. And so it is of value to her children to get him well.
Even if the marriage is unsalvageable, it's in the best interest of the children for the other parent to get sober and start being an active, participatory parent to those kids.
Tommy's surprise intervention is planned for the last day of November. He's in a bad way.
Apparently, he had done an incredible amount of cocaine that week.
Still, Tommy refuses to acknowledge that drugs are part of his problem.
Look, Ma, I know you think it's the drugs, but it's not. I'm good. My wife just left me, and I can't play ball no more.
Tommy, please. It's the drugs.
It's not the drugs, Ma. Just leave me alone, all right?
Tamara brings along Hilda St. Louis, a friend from church, to convince Tommy that he needs help.
Okay, I'm ready.
She embodies his failures. She embodies his failed marriage. She embodies his failed fatherhood. She just embodies all of that. And you have to also guess that this is not the first time she's tried to ask him to get help and to fix himself up and to clean himself up. It really was, you know, to pardon the expression, the perfect storm leading to this tragic event.
Tamara's arrival is supposed to serve as a wake-up call for Tommy. Instead, it sends him over the edge.
Tommy, everything is okay. Everything's okay, Tommy. Everything's okay.
Tommy, hi.
You don't need to be here right now.
I do.
No, you don't.
You need help. We're here for you. Hilda can help. I'm here for you. You're not okay, Tommy.
You want to help me?
Yes.
Let's go. Come on.
Hold on, Tommy. Hold on, Tommy, please. Just I'm okay with you. Let go of me. Let go of me.
And the next thing the church worker says is she hears Tammy screaming.
Didn't know what to do, didn't know what to, screaming her head off.
When fallen NFL star Tommy Kane spirals into a cocaine-fueled depression, his mother and her friend from church call his estranged wife Tamara to help stage an intervention that erupts into explosive violence.
The next thing the church worker says is she hears Tammy screaming. And she goes into the kitchen and she sees Tommy dragging her by the hair and smashing her head into the floor. The church worker runs over and is screaming at Tommy to stop it. And she sees him reach back onto the counter and grab a knife. And she actually manages to grab the knife from him. And he had grabbed a second knife and stabbed her in the throat. The church worker basically holds her as she passes away.
Tamara was trying to save him, and she did it at the cost of her life.
Tamara is pronounced dead in the hospital, and Tommy Kane, former NFL star and hometown hero is arrested and charged with second-degree murder.
Words can't even describe how I felt. Surreal seems to come to mind. It's just, you think it's not really happening. You see stuff like that in the paper. It's a devastating story then, but to have it so close to home and to be someone that you befriended, it's that much more traumatic.
The Tommy Kane that I knew is gone. That football player, that friend is gone. And there's a different man here. And personally, that's how I had to look at it, that he was not the Tommy Kane that I played college football with.
Tamara's gone too, and for her family, that's a much bigger loss.
What's gonna happen to his children now? You know, what's gonna happen to the family? What's gonna happen to his mom? These are the things that bothered me.
In the wake of the killing, the children are taken in by Tamara's sister, who is beside herself with grief.
It was hard to console her, and all she said to me was, what am I gonna do with these kids?
For the close-knit community of Little Burgundy, the impact of Tommy's crime and Tamara's death is immediate and tragic.
A lot of the people I spoke to said it would be like your second-grade teacher had killed somebody. Almost 2 generations of young people had been influenced by him, had met him, were coached by him. The Reverend at the Union United Church had opened up the doors and invited people just to come in, whether they just wanted to sit and pray or talk or just try as a group to cope with this shock of what had happened. It looked like a room of young people who obviously they couldn't absorb what they were hearing. That this man that they looked up to could have done something like this. Tommy Kane, he was like the hero that you would see in a movie where somebody from a really bad neighborhood gets out, does good, and then you hope it has a happy ending. And in this case, it was the opposite of a happy ending.
It just broke a lot of people down, though, people that helped build them up.
Shock soon turns to outrage when Tommy pleads not guilty to the second-degree murder charge.
No one was disputing what he'd done. His mother saw it. There was a church worker there who saw it. What was in dispute was whether he meant to do it, which would have meant a murder charge and conviction, or if he didn't have that intent, then it would be manslaughter.
And manslaughter would carry a much lighter sentence.
There were women's groups who were concerned that because Tommy was a famous athlete, they wanted to make sure that it wouldn't be another OJ, that he would be punished accordingly. And they wanted to draw attention to the fact that this was a domestic violence case and not a football player on trial case.
In the days following Tamara's brutal killing, it's revealed that Tommy has a history of violence, all the way back to his arrest at Syracuse University, after the true nature of his altercation with a police officer is revealed.
I believe she put her hand inside the car as he was trying to pull away. And he actually dragged her a few feet that's the story that I heard.
And he assaulted her. He beat her up. And somehow he was given community service for that.
I love to see somebody who's had a challenging background be given an opportunity to rise above it and set an example that people actually can, whether they should or not, follow. And so when somebody squanders those opportunities, it makes me angry. It sort of illustrates how the United States and Canada as well put way too much stock in those people who, other than on the athletic field or in the singing arena or whatever it is that they do, there's really no reason to expect them to be better people or immune to any of the foibles and everything that anybody else has.
The fact that there are 4 children who are being raised without any parents, the one quality parent is dead and the other parent is in jail, it breaks my heart.
In 2004, court-ordered psychiatrists agree that Tommy was literally out of his mind when he killed Tamara.
At that point, he was devastated that she was dead. He was devastated that his children wouldn't have lost both parents.
He said, what if my kids never want to speak to me again? That's what he said to me. I said to him, but that's all too late now. You should have thought about all that before. I said, you gotta live with that, Holmes.
Tommy pleads guilty to the lesser charge of manslaughter, but he doesn't get off easy.
He was given 18 years for manslaughter, which is really a very heavy sentence for manslaughter. That is the kind of sentence you would expect from basically a murder conviction.
7 years after Tamara's death, Tamara's sister, who has custody of the children, is awarded compensation from the jailed former football star.
She was eventually granted a little less than $600,000. Part of that was child support, but also it was for all of the pain and suffering that the children have endured up until that point.
The former Seahawk sells the house he bought for his mother in order to pay for damages. But no amount of money will bring Tamara back to her children.
I went with a friend to visit the sister, and I saw the kids at the top of the stairs, just being kids, just being happy little kids, smiling, and I had to turn my back, go outside and cry. And the sister said to me, oh, don't worry about it. It happens to me a lot. I have to hide and cry because I don't want, the kids to see me cry.